led to article after article of people being like, Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person. And all these staffers started to come out, not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said, you were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls of that show. If you saw her, this is not a nice person.
Ellen's rough.
Ellen is like an old...
But it's a rough one now.
It's a rough one now because she was running Abu Ghraib in the back of her show. That's a rough one. She's out there dancing with Kristen Bell, and in the back, there's people that are getting up on the rack like this.
You'd never expect Ellen DeGeneres, the smiling, dancing, be kind icon, to get caught in a whirlwind of public criticism, especially from Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan. But that's exactly what happened in a tag team expose that made regular daytime drama seem tame. One moment, Ellen was handing out giveaways. The next, she was facing a storm of uncomfortable truths. Megyn arrived with behind-the-scenes intel, and Rogan came in with bold, direct questions. As for Ellen, let's just say her once glowing image is now under serious review. What exactly did they reveal that has Hollywood's talk show circle in a panic? You'll want to hear this.
Question for you on this. This is perfect for you. Because I'm seeing this week that there is an attempted comeback by somebody who did not cross one of those fateful lines of the misstepping on their sacred cows of gender or race or sexuality.
Yeah.
But she was said to be a nasty biatch, and that's Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
So her show got canceled after she had this testy exchange with Dakota Johnson, where something happened where Dakota said, oh, I had this birthday party. And Ellen said, well, why didn't you invite me? You didn't invite me. And she said, like, no, I did invite you, Ellen. That's not what happened. And Ellen had blown her off and then tried to play the victim on the set with her. Anyway, it led to article after article of people being like, Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person.
Have they made progress with the strike?
They're picketing right now, so I think it's the early stages. I would think it might take a little bit with this one.
When someone crosses the writer strike, that's some dirty shit. They cross the picket line.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody doing that yet.
I think Ellen did. I had a buddy of mine who was writing on Ellen. Everybody kind of knows now what she's really all about. And that's another one of those. Like, I'm so nice and I'm so sweet. Being behind the...
Remember when Ellen DeGeneres ruled daytime television? Always cheerful, always dancing, the feel-good personality who sold the idea that kindness was her brand? Well, that version of Ellen has taken a serious hit. Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan didn't hold back, and the cheerful image Ellen built is now being looked at through a completely different lens.
Situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a bitch. And then everybody, whoa.
Yeah.
Can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece of shit. And he was like, she's a...
That famous Be Kind slogan? It was everywhere, on mugs, shirts, and banners, like a national motto. You'd think she spent her days spreading joy, handing out gifts, and rescuing puppies. But according to multiple reports, the atmosphere behind the scenes was anything but joyful. Former staffers have described the workplace as tense and unfair, with stories of favoritism and fear replacing the feel-good energy Ellen promoted on camera.
Not a nice person. So she eventually got canceled, but now she's coming back. She's got a Netflix special. That's the right response.
Megyn Kelly, with her sharp interviewing skills, dug into claims of a culture that some say felt more hostile than supportive. While Ellen kept the jokes and smiles going for the audience, employees were allegedly walking on eggshells. It wasn't exactly the kind of place that matched her public message of kindness. And honestly, I wasn't too surprised. An old friend of mine who worked on the show once said, she's tough to work for.
You know, but I hadn't already known that because I had a buddy who worked for her. Like, and he was like, she's a monster.
Yeah. I didn't really had a lot of awareness. You probably did just from being in the business.
I only did because of my buddy.
Yeah.
My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan wasn't buying the carefully curated image either. The podcast king broke it all down, cutting through the polished PR spin to uncover a tale of control, emotional manipulation, and a behind-the-scenes system that seemed to turn crisis into ratings gold. It was almost fascinating, like watching a magic act where the tricks are so obvious, you can't help but notice every wire and mirror.
On the promo, and apparently there's now articles out about from people who have seen the preview. She plays the victim, and she says, "For me," and she actually has the nerve to say that she was run out of Hollywood. This person
with $100 million in her pocket.
$450 million, according to Forbes. That's a low.
Here's the real twist. Ellen's show racked up awards and glowing praise for being a positive, uplifting part of daytime TV. But behind the scenes, reports painted a very different picture. It was allegedly chaotic and tense, more like a backstage drama than a celebration of kindness. Imagine winning Best Family Movie for a film secretly directed by someone yelling between takes. It just doesn't match. Her shelf full of trophies may look impressive, but critics now say it was more sparkle than substance. Megyn Kelly uncovered claims of staff being silenced and complaints being brushed aside before anyone could raise a real alarm. Many felt they couldn't speak up without risking their jobs. Even celebrity guests, according to reports, picked up on the tension, some describing the vibe as cold and distant, wondering if the cheerful host was masking a much stricter side. The brand of kindness started to feel more like a costume than a core value. It's the ultimate contradiction. Building a brand on love and care while allegedly creating fear behind the scenes. The disconnect was so obvious, it was hard to ignore.
Stephen Paddock.
Who's that?
He was the guy that shot up the Vegas concert. That was a very tragic thing. Listen to this. The only guy that saw Stephen Paddock alive, his name is Jesus Campos. He was a guard at Mandalay Bay. He got interviewed nowhere else. You know where he got interviewed in the beginning? Ellen.
Really?
Weird. And then they went on, if you could find that clip, they went on with a weird diagram of how it happened, and Ellen's showing the people how it happened. Not like an emotional, how are you feeling, how are you holding up? It was a weird diagram of and then he went to the left and to the right. It was very strange to look. What the hell's going on? This is a daytime show.
Which is the Paddock guy? There's two guys there?
The chubbier guy is the Jesus guy. And now Ellen is doing a thing of how the shooting happened.
Look how she's got an antenna from someone's Buick that she's popped.
Joe Rogan didn't sugarcoat it. He called out the difference between Ellen's feel-good image and the alleged reality behind the curtain. The same woman who encouraged celebrities to open up about their struggles was, according to reports, running a workplace where her own team felt trapped in silence. It was the textbook example of do as I say, not as I do. When the controversy exploded, Ellen's PR team jumped into overdrive. They released formal statements full of the usual lines. We're investigating. We take this seriously. We're committed to making things better. But to many, it sounded like the usual corporate script that's more about saving face than solving problems. And while other public figures might respond with a heartfelt apology or at least an explanation, Ellen remained unusually quiet. The silence was louder than any statement, especially coming from someone known for always having something to say. Megyn Kelly didn't hold back just to stir drama. She laid out a detailed picture of a workplace that, according to multiple accounts, felt more like a scripted show than a sincere mission. The kindness? Many say it was just for the cameras. The smiles? Part of the act. And the people who made it all happen? Left in the shadows of a show that claimed to be built on kindness, but may have been powered by something very different.
Saying, I was run out of Hollywood. She's actually reportedly complaining about how hard it is for women in America with the double standards.
Look at Oprah, how hard it is for her.
Oh, she's got, 10 houses, Ellen DeGeneres?
Michelle Obama, look how hard it is for women in America. They're hurting.
They're going to let her back in, Rob, because she's a lesbian, she's a leftist, and she didn't hit one of their sacred cows. Nastiness, that's their bread and butter.
Then there were the fans. The people who believed in Ellen's message, bought the merchandise, and held onto their Be Kind mugs like they meant something. For many, it now feels like a punchline in a sad story about mixed messages, all wrapped in glitter and high-energy dance moves. So the next time Ellen shimmies across the screen with that signature grin, just remember, what happened off camera wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. According to reports, it was a polished performance built over a backstage reality that Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan weren't afraid to call out. Because when your brand is kindness, but your leadership allegedly feels more like control, the fallout isn't just dramatic, it's unavoidable. Ellen symbolized wholesome, family-friendly daytime fun. But that cheerful image, it reportedly had more cracks than a dollar store mirror. While America danced along with DJ Twitch and Ellen's signature moves, her team, according to insiders, was counting the hours until they could escape what some described as a mentally exhausting work environment. And no, there were no prize. Giveaways for enduring it. There's something almost ironic about Ellen's empire. She was known for handing out cars and vacations like they were candy, yet rumors suggested she could go a whole day without greeting her crew, unless of course they were famous, wealthy, or had a verified checkmark on Instagram. Imagine working. Exhausting shifts only to be told not to look your boss in the eye as if doing so might disrupt some invisible aura. It sounds less like a TV set and more like a modern-day satire Orwell might have written, if he'd ever visited a celebrity. Green room.
Antenna from someone's Buick that she's popped off and she's using it as a pointer.
But why the hell is this happening on like a daytime show where this is weird?
Where'd she get that pointer?
I don't know. She stole it off an intern's car.
Why wouldn't you just use your finger? Like if that was you, if it was your show, the Tim Dillon show, wouldn't you just point?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also a giant screen behind her, so they could have just put it on that screen.
So, but she's using this thing. I find it very strange. I don't know why.
Wait a minute, those aren't.
Even Joe Rogan couldn't ignore the irony. In his world of tough conversations and wild theories, the idea that America's favorite hug giver was allegedly running a workplace full of silence and stress sounded absurd. As he put it, it was like discovering the Care Bears had a dark side. Anonymous stories began pouring out. Claims of racial bias, constant pressure, and rigid control. It all painted a picture of a work culture very different from the upbeat message that aired every day. Yet somehow the show kept rolling out cheerful. Random acts of kindness segments like those clips could drown out the behind-the-scenes struggles. Megyn Kelly didn't just observe this contradiction. She confronted it head-on. She's never been one to hold back, and this time, she practically lit the narrative on fire. She exposed just how disconnected the brand had become from the reality, describing Ellen's PR strategy as a masterclass in covering cracks with confetti.
I don't hold any grievance and resentment. It's very important. And I would just say for Ellen, the resentment, you have to know, you have to get over resentment to whatever addiction or addictive qualities happen. To get over it, you have to deal with resentment and address it. And then otherwise you're going to fall back into the same pattern. And I think also to admit your mistakes.
Of all people on earth to be feeling sorry for herself, Ellen DeGeneres should not be on the list.
She should at least, but make a real apology and do it.
There's no apology.
And what about the media? For a long time, they treaded lightly. After all, questioning Ellen, the giggling symbol of daytime virtue, was almost unthinkable just a few years ago. But once one person spoke out, the floodgates opened. Suddenly, everyone had a story or an uneasy memory to share. It became clear that what once seemed like petty gossip was actually a long trail of red flags, ones that had been ignored until it was too late. The apologies that followed? Predictable. A round of carefully worded statements made their way out. I wasn't aware. I'm heartbroken. That's not the environment I wanted to create. It was the kind of Hollywood language that sounds sincere, but often dodges accountability. Because at the end of the day, the real question is simple. How do you champion kindness while allegedly allowing a workplace culture that doesn't reflect it? Joe Rogan wasn't fooled. He compared it to someone selling wellness while handing out emotional stress like party favors. As he put it, you can't just throw a cheerful slogan over a serious issue and hope no one notices. That's not how integrity or kindness really works.
I agree with you. And forgiveness is great. I'm Catholic. It's just the double standard on it is very galling. Here's a clip, by the way. This is the promo for her Netflix special. And here's a clip.
Decided to take up gardening. I got chickens. Let me see what else I can tell you about that's been going on. Oh yeah, I got kicked out of show business. The Be Kind girl wasn't kind.
First came the headlines. Then the interviews. Then the wave of leaked stories and not-so-subtle former staffers who finally spoke out. And just like that, the legacy of The Ellen Show began to unravel, faster than one of those magic tricks she used to love. Except this time, there was no rabbit, no hat, and the illusion had vanished. Turns out audiences weren't interested in feel-good hugs from a host who, according to insiders, may have treated her barista better than her own crew. And as the media circus swirled, Megyn Kelly showed up with facts. She dissected Ellen's brand like a forensic analyst at a crime scene, pointing out the contradiction between Ellen's public kindness and the silence that followed the scandal. That innocent, "oh gosh, I didn't know" defense, Megyn shut it down faster than a phone signal at a music festival. And then came Ellen's farewell season. A sparkly wrap-up, complete with carefully curated messages of gratitude to fans and staff, where she subtly rewrote the narrative as a story of personal growth and simple misunderstanding. It was a masterclass in reputation rehab, more spin than sincerity. Kind of like trying to rebrand the Titanic as an unexpected underwater adventure. Joe Rogan wasn't buying it. His take? The true test of character isn't how generous you are on camera, it's how you treat the people who help create that stage. If your entire brand is built on kindness, but insiders report a different reality behind the curtain, it stops being genuine. It starts looking like performance art with a hint of manipulation.
Called her out. I was like, Ellen's not that nice.
This was after you went on the show?
After I went on the show.
What was it like meeting Ellen? And is she a good person?
Let's just all go back to 2017, where I was the first person to call Ellen out before anyone else
You called her out?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I called her out. I was like, Ellen's not that nice.
This was after you went on the show?
After I went on the show. And the world blew up about it and was like so mad at me about it. And then someone else said it. And then it was like, oh my God, Ellen's not nice. Oh, okay.
Why do you say she's not nice?
I can't explain it. It was just
an
really
energy?
weird. I ran into her like backstage. It was like an awkward thing. And like the producers were really scared. I was like, what's going on? They were like, that was not supposed to happen. We're going to get in trouble. It's like so weird. She was like, hey. It was like, I was like, oh, hi. Like, I was like, I'm so excited.
It was like watching Ellen's empire collapse in slow motion, a Jenga tower made of ego, glitter, and self-help slogans. And the most ironic twist of all? The very slogan she built her empire on, "Be kind," became the punchline. It's now a meme, a cautionary tale. That Pinterest quote you scroll past while wondering if the person who wrote it once yelled at an intern. Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan didn't uncover anything new. They just pulled back the curtain and let the audience see what had always been lurking behind the scenes. And once people realized that the so-called Wizard of Kindness might have just been a stressed-out executive with a short fuse, the illusion broke. No more slow-motion hugs. No more moral high ground wrapped in a cardigan. No more dancing. Through criticism, the show is off the air. The lights are cold. The audience? They've moved on. Some still holding dusty Be Kind mugs next to a pile of canceled subscriptions and broken illusions. And here's the truth. This whole saga would be funny if it weren't so sad. Ellen convinced millions she was a beacon of light. Turns out, according to multiple sources, that glow might have been more spotlight than sincerity. The difference? She packaged it, branded it, and sold it as a lifestyle. And people bought it. But in today's world, where authenticity is more valuable than a viral giveaway, and every guru is one slip-up away from cancellation, Ellen's story isn't just a scandal, it's a warning. Don't sell kindness if you can't live it. Because eventually someone will peek behind the curtain. And if all they find is ego, burned bridges, and broken trust, it's game over. Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan didn't just criticize a public figure, they reminded everyone of a brutal truth. The emperor of daytime TV wasn't just losing her crown. She might never have worn it at all.